Ladies and gents, welcome back to another Engineers podcast. Today we're joined by Arthur Patora, co-founder and CTO of Yubo. Yubo are another social media discovery app or social discovery app that uses live streaming, messaging, and swiping to help Gen Z meet new people from around the world and hang out online. So, in this session, we're really interested in understanding some of their infrastructure and engineering challenges, but we're going to dive into some really interesting inflection points for the business and how they actually transpired to be throughout the 2020 pandemic. So, some really meaty engineering challenges, but also some really interesting inflection points for the business. So, first and foremost, Arthur, thanks for coming to join us. I'm going to give you the honors of talking more about Yubo and the mission of the business and how you came to be. But first, thanks.
Hi, everyone. Thanks, Elliot, for the intro. So I'm Arthur. I'm the CTO and co-founder at Yubo. I'm 30 years old. So I actually grew up in one of the poorest neighborhoods in Paris here. So actually, I couldn't make really any friends at the time because of all the bullying that was taking place outside. So I started learning maths. I got really passionate about physics, playing the guitar, playing video games like all teens do, swimming. And my parents, they studied sociology and literature, so I really had to learn everything by myself. And at some point, um, I started meeting new friends, meeting like-minded people through all those hobbies. But this whole process of going from the state of loneliness to the state of fulfillment took me about 10 to 20 years. So at Yubo, our mission is really to get you out of your social bubble in a matter of weeks, and to do it in a safe way.
Okay. There's a really nice inflection point there for you as well. There's going to be inflection points about the business, but a really nice inflection point for you. Thank you for sharing that. Talk to us a little bit about then the mission of the business and how it came to be with a number of your co-founders.
So I met Sasha the CEO and co-founder at Yubo, when I joined a top engineering school here in France. So Sasha was already working with Jeremy, who's the CPO and co-founder at Yubo, on some other apps. So at this time, they were working on an app called 12, which concept was one day, one date. So it was a dating app. So I joined them to build the whole backend side. And I was just like learning, and I was at the first year in the engineering school, so I didn't really know how to code everything, and it was a big challenge for me. But ultimately, we were struggling to find users. And we've always been passionate about connecting people online. Sasha and Jeremy, they've built a lot of apps since they were 18. So at some point with this app, we didn't really figure out how to make it grow. And but I still learned a lot because I had to figure out how to build the backend, what is an API, and all those technical stuff that I've never done before.
Yeah. There's some really interesting points that we're going to touch on. Further in the show, I want to talk about building, maintaining the entire infrastructure and the scale of how many users. I think it will shock quite a lot of people. But we're similar ages. I'm nearly 32, you're 30. Why don't we take people back to the social media landscape at the inception of Yubo and help set the scene there, but then also talk to us about today and how you feel that's changed.
So we created Yubo in 2015. So at that time, there were all those major social networks, and Facebook was one of the biggest social network at the time. Instagram got acquired, so it was growing very fast. Twitter pioneered microblogging. Um, we and also there was Snapchat that was growing very fast. And what Snapchat introduced was this way of authenticity, And so we actually, when we started Yubo, when we stopped working on the dating app that we built at first, we started to look at Twitter, and we found out that there are a lot of people who share their Snapchat usernames online. And we were thinking about why they are doing so. And we started adding them, we started talking with them, we really investigated into their needs. And we figured out that they just want to talk, they just want to interact. And that's how we built Yubo. And that's how we imagined Yubo at first, to fulfill this need. And that was a need that was really growing at the time, also with Snapchat, that introduced a lot of authenticity in how people are communicating with each other, with disappearing messages, disappearing snaps. And but the fact is that when time went by, we arrived to a point where all the social platforms, they started to introduce influencers. People were talking a lot about the creator economy. We started to have like a lot of people just interacting in an asynchronous way, in a very one way. So at some point, those interactions started to stop being two-way or real time, and became more about performance. And also, like the Facebook introduced, for example, video content. So there was a lot of different phases in this social network's growth, and this was the phase where we had a lot of content. People were consuming a lot of content, but we're not necessarily interacting with each other. And that's something that we tried to reintroduce back with Yubo. And also, we lost a key part, I think, of internet with before, when I was a teen, there were forums, there was MSN, and we all remember how we were interacting with people who shared our interests, who were like-minded, and that's something that we've lost with time, I believe.
Yeah, 100%. I remember the days when you used to wait on a
Yep.
forum for like
Yeah.
a day for a message. But
Mhm.
you're so right. And actually, how you felt as a youngster growing up leads you to understand this mission even more. And I agree. And if we spoke about the social media landscape today and where it's evolved really from 2015, even during the pandemic, times have changed quite a lot. And I think you've simplified it, and you've really gone back to the roots of why people wanted to connect online, because they
Exactly.
could connect.
Mm,
But you're right, it feels so one way
mm,
now at times with
exactly.
quite a lot of the platforms that you mentioned. So I think the UX there that you've done and how you did it via the handles online on Twitter is a really unique way.
Thanks. That's what we're striving every day to do. We try really to stay ahead of the curve, to innovate, to explore new things, and that's how we iterate constantly on the product. And I believe being at the beginning a solid group of technical founders has allowed us to really iterate fast on the product, and to understand the needs, to explore new areas. For example, we've introduced some features that have never been done before, like live streaming, and we've really pushed this research on the product very far.
Yeah, we're going to talk about some of those points. What I think is incredible, which I want to go on to, building and maintaining the infrastructure alongside Jeremy, but just building it to the sheer scale of what it is today, 80 million users across 5 people. Talk to us about both of those things.
That was a big challenge. So Jeremy, who's our CPO, At the beginning he was coding the iOS part. So we're on native iOS and native Android. So at the beginning we just had an iOS app, and he was coding it while I was doing the backend part. So yeah, as I said, we were like a very small team of technical founders. So the interactions were very fast, and we understood each other very well. And there was a lot of challenges because I had to learn everything by myself. I didn't know what a distributed system is. I didn't know how you structure an API, what indexes are on a database. So like some small stuff that I had no idea about. So I can tell you some funny anecdotes about this, because I've at some point I've set up like a server and I put everything on it, and I was wondering why it doesn't scale. So but then like I started to iterate, I started to test some technologies, and at some point I distributed everything. I was talking a lot with founders of other companies to understand how it works. I also like tested tens of technologies at the beginning, and then I dive deeply into some of them to understand how they work. I also used some external services, some managed services. I remember, for example, my MongoDB was hosted by a managed service where I had access to the engineers who helped me build the indexes, optimize the queries. And that's also how I learned to do all of this. Um, what's interesting is that I started using Kubernetes in 2018, which is pretty early actually. So yeah, I actually made this choice pretty early, and started to build a cluster, to deploy my services, to try to tweak the autoscalers. And we were growing very fast. So the app was crashing a lot at the beginning because we had and I had to repair it myself during the nights. And it's always a challenge, to be alone, like to repair everything, and you have to code the new features. So yeah, it's like an adventure, but it's very fulfilling. And um, yeah, it's been an awesome adventure, and I learned a lot.
Yeah. As a group, you seem like a really resourceful, tenacious, curious bunch. The resourcefulness to pull together a number of different technologies, go and find some answers from other founders, the tenacity to track people down on Snapchat and get some answers from them. So is actually a really good example of a number of people coming together, being really resourceful with what I imagine isn't a great deal of money right at the start of building your business and finding out answers yourself. So I really tip my hat to you guys.
Thanks. Yeah, it's been pretty tough to actually do it myself at the beginning, and then start to build a team that can pursue this mission. So yeah, as I said, there are like I would say two challenges to scale. And there's one challenge about the technical part, the load scaling, how we actually build the right databases. One of the examples I have is the live streaming technology. So, for example, for this technology, when we started in 2018 to integrate live streaming on Yubo, there were only external providers that were based on conference calls, so not really suitable for the millions of MAUs that we had. So, and the business model was just too costly for us. So we had to find out some other solutions. So we started to implement the media servers ourselves, to understand what WebRTC is, try to understand all the tech, and then build this infrastructure iteratively until today, where we have like a whole infrastructure on VMs, on GCP, with Salt Stack, with auto scaling, which was like a pretty interesting feat because autoscaling with persistent connection. You have to build your custom autoscalers. So and also it's globalized. So there are like plenty of different servers all around the world. We've had some interesting technical challenges, but we've also had some interesting people scaling challenges.
Hmm.
Especially since I was alone and I coded for 5 years, I generated a lot of technical debt. So at some
Did
point,
you?
I had like 300 microservices on Kubernetes myself. So
Okay.
it was pretty tough
Wow,
to
you
manage.
messy boy.
and and then I had to hire a team. So yeah, like we did it iteratively. I first hired the DevOps team that started to take over all the whole Kubernetes cluster, and I had to list and explain to them all the services that are there. And then they did an amazing job optimizing everything. And I like to hire people that are much better than me in an area, and I think it's very fulfilling, and I can trust people to do the right job, to make the right decisions. Then I started hiring some backend developers. I also took over the mobile part, which was at the beginning done by Jeremy, our CPO. And today we have like this whole unified tech department that is managing the whole infrastructure end to end. So there were a lot of people challenges. We had to find the right people, and I like to, and also I had to go from this state of coding myself, being an individual contributor, to managing the team, and that was like a big step. So there was the first step where I had to manage people myself, and then where I had to manage managers, and that was also like another challenge that I had to overcome. But at some point, like we really managed to keep our culture. So we're still shipping fast. We have really passionate people, and that's, I think, the most important part is to have people who are motivated by the mission, who like having an impact on end users, and I think it's really great.
I love that. That's really good insight into some of the people growth in the business, some of the technical growth and that evolution. I don't think we're giving enough credit to 80 million users, by the way. Um, I want to explore that. I want to explore that inflection point in the business. Maybe there was a period of time where Yubo just literally took off and, as the new gen say, to the moon. So I want to try and understand, when did that happen? When was that inflection point as well?
So there were several inflection points, I guess. The first inflection point was at the beginning, what I told you with Snapchat. We've actually built a product at the beginning that was really for those users. So we were saying like, had people come on Yubo to make friends on Snapchat. And I think we benefited from this growth trend that pushed the whole user base up, and we really reached like millions of MAUs pretty fast. And then there was another inflection point where we started to monetize. And when we started to monetize, we didn't expect much, but then when we actually implemented the features, we saw that we were really providing a lot of value to our users, and that our users are actually willing to pay for it, and which is pretty different, from the business model of other social networks such as Facebook, where you really have to, or Instagram, and you have a lot of different. It's really different. Like in terms of, we don't have ads. We really try to push. To People are really trying to we are really trying to provide value to our users. So Yeah, that was like the second inflection point, because that allowed us to have enough runway, enough resources to acquire new users, to promote Yubo on with ads, and that's how we actually grew, and that's how we're growing today.
That's quite a nice inflection point, actually. Monetization of the platform, from what I've just heard from you, really just takes you to that next level as a business to reinvest back into your growth, create some more safety, create some more structure in the business. I imagine a big inflection point.
Yeah, it's true. And yes, you're talking about safety. I would say that safety is like one of the most important things that we're doing at Yubo. It's one of our top priorities, and especially like our job is really to enforce safety rules, policies, safety policies. Um, we really strive to make it so that users don't have even to think about it. Uh, if I had to sum up, so um, the technology behind it is really interesting because it's like a multi-layered technology. You can't have like one system that just solves entirely the problem of safety. It doesn't exist. So it's like very, very multi-layered technology, and we have a lot of different layers in it, so different components. For example, there are some internal components, there are some external components. For the internal ones, we have, for example, some AI moderation, and we develop algorithms internally. We have a lot of policies that we need to enforce. And for external stuff, for example, one of the things that we've accomplished is that we've age verified all of our users. And that's really interesting because we're one of the first social networks to do that. And everyone on Yubo is age verified. It has its age estimated. So we did it with Yoti, YOTI, which is one of the external providers. And so we don't really we're not scared about using external providers to build some of the components of our technology. So as I said before, with the live streaming technology, we are using sometimes, we are always thinking about our external solutions, and our choice is often made as a balance of cost and time, so if it doesn't cost too much, then we'll probably choose the external provider. But if it costs too much, and it's going to be better to internalize it.
Yeah. I think smart as well, just going back to the safety and security part. Um, I think you have to move where your customer base are moving. And I think social media, probably in the last 5 years, has definitely moved towards safety, security in a number of different contexts without naming cases or businesses. So refreshing to see that you're taking that really seriously, and that's a product or a feature that you're introducing for the right reasons. And I know there's more product features that are in the pipeline that you want to release on the security side. So without sharing maybe too much detail, like, can you talk to us about those?
Yeah, of course. So we have a lot of different features. We're iterating a lot on our multi-layered technology, and it's really so there are actually this technology is based on different set of rules. So internally, we try to iterate on algorithms to make it so that the safety of our users is ensured. Recently, we've released a map where users can meet each other and find people in their area that are searching for people who want to make friends. So we're actually shipping a lot. We're releasing a lot of features. So both on the app itself and also internally, because we are working a lot also on improving the tech at Yubo. So um, for example, we're building an infrastructure platform. What this means is that we're providing developers, backend developers, tools to enhance their velocity to be able to deploy their own databases, for example. Or we're trying to improve the way our CI/CD works. So there are a lot of different stuff happening at Yubo right now.
Awesome.
I'm personally building a data analytics team, it's going to be another addition to the tech team because we're setting up a lot of different projects about OKRs, about KPIs. So we need a lot of different KPIs in every department to be able to monitor and to be able to go further in our growth. So I'm trying to set up this data analytics team. And what's interesting is that we've really built already for the last 2 years a data lake that contains all the data. And we've done it internally with Trino and Iceberg.
Nice.
And it works pretty well. Yeah, that's one of the stuff we've did with the team that is really amazing. On the backend side, we're also trying to document everything. We're trying to add integration tests to enhance the ways we are working with the product team. So there are a lot of different processes we're putting in place. On the mobile side, we have an Android team and an iOS team, and both applications are native. So we've worked a lot in the past, for example, on Android to use the last technologies such as Compose or coroutines, which really improved the way the performance of the application. And
Mm.
also for Compose, for example, it also improved the velocity of developers because it allowed us to instead of writing a whole XML file, we now have like just a few lines of code. So it was a pretty interesting migration. On iOS, we're starting to transition from UIKit to Swift UI. So there are some pretty interesting challenges there too. So yeah, it's a lot of different things on the tech today.
Lots going on. Any product plans that you can share with us maybe over the next 12 months?
So for the product plans, we're trying to understand more how our users are using Yubo. So today, when we are acquiring users, we actually are thinking about like when we acquire users, they are coming at Yubo just to make friends. So there's really no context in which they are meeting people. They are just meeting people because they want to meet people. And it's like a bit on the road. If you ask someone like, "Do you want to be my friend?" It sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But we're trying to introduce some more context to the app, and context in terms of friendships. So just introducing the why in the connections.
Okay. That's a really thoughtful approach. Last question. What's one bit of advice that you would give to another founder or group of founders that you found or you wished really useful or wish you had at the time of starting? Because honestly, I look at your journey and I think you've been on an incredible journey. And I go back to the resourcefulness, tenacity, curiosity. They're things that I find really interesting about the Yubo journey. So would love to understand from someone as successful as you what you would actually recommend to someone else
I think
or wishing you.
the most important quality I would say is to be resilient, to really make sure that whatever happens, you persist. And actually, like there were like 100 reasons for Yugo to die, and we still survived. So so yeah, it's really about resilience, and sometimes things seem very bleak and you think there is no solution, but you still have to advance. And that's, I think, one of the most important qualities of entrepreneurs. um, and it's not an easy path anyway. So yeah. And then the curiosity, I would say, like being interested in, so if it concerns like B2C apps, being really interested in how people use your product, talk to your users, be able to understand the impact you have on them, and to care also about them. I think it's all the qualities that you need to build a successful consumer app.
Love that. That's really good insights. I want to say a massive thanks for coming to join us on the podcast, spending time with us, and helping us understand a little bit more about what you're building down at Yubo. And looks like really exciting times for the next 12 months.
It was a pleasure for me too. Thank you, Elliot.
My pleasure. For everyone listening, likes, shares, subscribes, all of that good stuff is massively valuable, as you know, for this little ecosystem to continue buzzing around. And it's bye for now. Hey guys, thanks for watching this episode. Massively appreciate you listening and checking in with us. If you want to find out more about us and what we're doing, please check us out on social media. What we're trying to do at Enginears is build a community to drive knowledge sharing and experiences. On Twitter, we can be found Enginears.io. It's no underscore. We've also got a website, which is enginears.io. These links will all be posted in the description. Any feedback and comments are massively appreciated. We're always looking to improve on where we can. Thanks, guys.